Yo, welcome to another episode of the Chicago Cycling Network podcast, where our female viewership is smaller than my FTP. I'm your host, Patrick, along with co-host Omar, and today we have two very special guests. We have Joe Sullivan to camera right and Andrew Sparks to camera left. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing this week?
Good, man. Good.
Good.
Doing well.
You guys do anything special? Anything that the audience needs to know? I heard one of us went to California.
Yeah, I was at the House of Mouse in California. Had a little Thanksgiving break, so good to get some sunshine and out of the cold. But yeah, back racing across this weekend and looking forward to it.
Beautiful. And then Omar just dropped some mad knowledge on us earlier about the difference in naming convention of Disney World versus Disneyland.
Yeah. Because of my kids, I found this out on Facebook. So if you want to know where Disneyland is, because it has LA in line, so it's in LA, and Disney World, it has ORL, so it's in Orlando. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I mean, you can't mess it up. So good to know. That's some cool knowledge to know.
Lovely. So for our audience, as you guys know, the agenda on these episodes and these shows is to highlight Chicago cycling. Some of us have been around a little bit longer than others. Andrew's still going to drop some knowledge on us with his, how long have you been in Chicago now?
About a year, just over a year.
About a year.
Yeah.
And we detect an accent, so would you like to tell us where you're from?
South Africa originally, but been here about 7 years.
So wait.
In the States.
South Africa, so do you know Elon Musk?
I don't know.
That would have been so cool.
Shout out to South Africa. You're not from South Africa,
No,
Joe. You're not?
no,
Okay.
I'm
sorry.
from here. It's
You gotta
as
go.
boring as it gets.
Beautiful. So the reason why we have you guys on today is because we wanted to hear your side of just what it's like to be in Chicago from a cycling perspective. Of course, we want to hear your racing experience, training, coaching, and just some of the other encounters you've had over this last year. And for you, Joe, what's it been, about 15 years?
Give or take, yeah.
Give or take?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with you. So tell us how you first got into cycling.
Yeah, so I've been racing bikes since before I knew I was racing bikes. So like at a young age, I would ride a bike way too fast and scare my parents to death. And my grandmother in particular would be like, "Hey, why don't you slow down?" And I was like, No. I like going fast, right? So it's been fun. But through high school, started working in a bike shop. Got my hands on a road bike and got into bike racing. But then as other sports, I played basketball in grade school, soccer through high school. As those kind of started to fade, I wasn't really built to do those sorts of things. Moved into kind of bike racing full time. It took me to Belgium for college, got to race over there, come back here. But I've been around for, about 15 years of doing local group rides, kind of the scene. So
Word on the street is you have a special nickname that people like to call you.
So when I was off at college, people started calling me TKB, the kid from Belgium, mainly because I would disappear for like 11 months at a time and then show up and race in telly and then leave again. There's nothing about me that's Belgian. I am as Evanston as it gets, but it's worked out quite well.
I mean, I know of TBK, Taco Burrito King, but that's probably not the same.
This is pretty interesting to find out about you, because I think I told you before, I stalked your Facebook and I was like, you look like you've been racing since you were like 2. And then we spoke, you're like, I've been racing since I was about 10. So that was pretty interesting that you've been in this thing for a very, very long time. So I know you have a lot of knowledge and you have seen the sport change over time in Chicago. So hopefully you can get in more detail into that, because I didn't know you're basically a young OG. So that's a good title to have in addition to what else you have. So as we go along, we're going to learn a little bit more about you. So yeah, happy you guys are here.
Mr. Andrew, affectionately known as Sparkie, kindly tell us your cycling story.
Yeah. So my mom actually rode bikes kind of growing up. She would always go off with her like group of friends, and one day I went with her and just joined her and her friends up on the mountain. Everything kind of back home is really just mountain biking. There's some road biking here and there, but the traffic is a little bit sketchy, so I personally like to stick to the mountain. But I'm going with her on my rigid mountain bike, whatever, and there's a single track coming up, and she says, "You can go try it, whatever. There's a ramp there. Just maybe don't go over that." I thought it went up and down, and it was probably about 4 or 5 feet tall. It was a pretty big jump. I got to the top with probably too much speed to brake. Went over the bars, landed on my head. It was like covered in dirt, blood, all that. My mom's like, "Oh no, he's gonna not cycle." I was like, "That was so cool. That's what I want to do forever."
And that was the spark.
And that's what happened.
Hashtag A Sparks.
Been riding since. Prefer the mountain still.
I'm sure at some point later in the show we'll probably get to our weekly fast group ride WNR. But for the audience, we want to let you know that both Omar and myself were influential 1,000% of bringing Andrew to meet all the groups in Chicago. No one else, only both of us. So
yeah. Their experience with Andrew. I think we were going up to Lake Bluff to the Intelligentsia, and me and my friend Evo. Shout out to Evo, Dragonspine. Shout out to Evo, Dragonspine. So we're here again. And I saw Andrew and this other guy, me and Evo, were going up, and we were actually, they said they were doing leg openers. We were going back and forth. And I saw that a segment where I have the calm was coming up. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to give nobody no lead out. So actually backed off. I'm like, you guys go.
So I'll tell you what really happened.
let's go.
So I'm riding with my buddy. He's from Maine, okay? So he's staying with me. I had just moved in. I think I had maybe towels that we were sleeping on in my apartment. No mattress, nothing. And he came over just to stay for Intelligentsia. He needed a floor to sleep on. And we're on our way to Lake Bluff, and we see these two guys up ahead. And so we go past, and as egotistical as bike racing is, everyone starts going past and passing each other back and forth. And then I go, "Chandler, I think you have some leg openers to do, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do." And he just starts going 700-800 watts, holding it, and I have zero fitness at this time. I'm just dying on his wheel, and none of us can really drop each other, but none of us were also racing except for Chandler. And Omar goes, "Yeah, he's gonna have a bad day in the race." I think, not to call you out, Chandler, but I think he did about 2.5 minutes in that race.
Which cat was this?
2-3.
2-3.
Yeah.
Joe, what do you think about this conversation when it comes to
To be fair, the course at Lake Bluff is so unforgiving.
That's Dean's favorite course.
The fact that you even think, "Oh, I'm gonna ride up there 10 miles and I'll do this bike race." It's like, no, that whole front straightaway is falls flat uphill.
Yep.
You're doing 600 watts the entire time, and I've never done well there. It just rips my legs off. So yeah, if y'all were having a pissing contest, on the way
it was
up there,
exactly what it was.
There's no way that went well.
I wasn't racing. I did race the next year and got dropped, okay? But that's a different story.
So now that we're on the topic of racing, and we'll start with Joe, just give us some of your experience, what it's like training and prepping here in Chicago, and then being out in Belgium, and then as well as some of these other higher category races.
Yeah. I'll say this, first and foremost, Chicago is probably one of the best bike scenes in the country, and we take it for granted. Because all of our rides are the same 3 roads the entire time. We go up and down Sheridan, we come back on Green Bay, we hit the lakefront, and that's it. And it seems super boring. But at the end of the day, it puts kind of all of the bike racers, bike riders even, together into one place. So the community's fantastic. Growing up, I had a whole bunch of kind of mentors on the group rides, just kind of older heads who either raced a super long time ago, raced recently, would kind of yell at me every now and again when I was doing something stupid. But it's the perfect place to kind of get into shape. Now, that being said, we have really crappy weather for 6 months of the year. So not super ideal if you hate your trainer. But I couldn't trade this for anything in the world, right? Even just we mentioned WNR, and it's kind of our favorite thing to talk about, is the Wednesday night ride. There is nothing like it in Belgium, at all.
Oh, interesting.
All the group rides there are very team focused. The first year I was there, I got in touch with a guy, and he said, "Hey, if you want to come on our ride, you got to call our coach, and our coach will give you permission to come if he thinks that's a good idea." And it's not really "Hey, everyone meets at this coffee shop at 8 and goes out for a ride." It's very siloed and everyone's got their own little group. And here, you know, we go to Wednesday night and like I get to sprint against Sparkie and Omar and the whole 606 train.
He didn't say me.
And
Just
Patty, I'm here to lead you on, man. It's on video. Me and the jorts. But it's super cool to just have kind of everyone's, for the most part, friends with each other and like kind of sharing their experiences and trying to help each other along the way. And then, you know, when you get out to like Wednesday night, you can kind of test and see what your legs got against pretty much everybody else. So no, I wouldn't trade this place for the world.
Interesting. Andrew, what about for yourself? And I'm going to get back to you both as far as just highlighting some of the highlights you've had racing. But what has been your experience kind of before we get into that segment as far as like training from where you were at before? Because you were on, what's it, automatic A-bus?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
What was their training regimen like? Were you guys also doing like fast group rides or just like Joe said?
It was a pretty decentralized team. So there were some of us in Georgia, a few of us in Denver and other places, kind of all around the country. Everyone just trusted each other that we were going to do the training and show up on race day. And that's kind of how it went. I was in college at the time, so I was riding a fair amount of hours, but there wasn't any specific training plan. I would kind of just go out and go after Strava segments.
Yeah, I know you took some of mine, so it's okay. I'll get them back eventually.
Yeah, but I haven't really been on any kind of coaching thing until really this year, since I was probably 6 years ago.
This is an interesting topic to me because some of the juniors that I've spoken to, even like on some of our local clubs like Triple X, I would ask them like, what's your training regimen like? And I'm just curious. And I know they're young and they're young, dumb, and full of, but you know, they would just say, oh, I'll just go ride my bike, come home and eat pizza. And I'm over here in my 40s, like I gotta be so structured because I'm losing fitness by the month. So it's interesting to hear, you know, especially for you guys at your level, to hear younger on that you're just, I'm just.
Yeah, this is quite surprising to me because I think if you're in a team, they'd have like a very structured, like today you do this is your nutrition, this is like all these different things. But I guess it's a little bit different. I'm still learning many things about cycling, so that's very, you know.
They definitely do now. I think everyone on the team is on the same program. From Tom Gibbons, he is the coach on the team and kind of the guy that we usually worked around for the various races because he was super strong. He's the guy who won Athens this year. So incredible bike racer. I think everyone's on his program these days. But yeah, back then team was kind of newer, so we weren't on any specific training program. I think we're still all kind of finding our feet and the team as a whole.
Okay, so that's why I see you a lot on Sheridan doing all those workouts. Every time I go up to Highland Park, I see him doing those sprints. So that's why, now I know where to find you now.
And then you start getting the notifications.
Yeah. No,
I haven't been able to take any of yours besides that one. I've tried.
It's coming for 2025. So, Joe, give me some of your highlights and low points, if you have any low points in your racing career. And it could be like philosophical. They don't necessarily have to be just podium. If you want.
Can I call the whole last 2 years a low point? It has been horrible. No, I mean, so to kind of bounce off of what you were saying, you talk to juniors, they like go ride bikes and eat pizzas. Like that was my life from like 10 to 16. Started working with a coach in high school, you know, fantastic time. Still like couldn't finish Cat 4 bike races. And it wasn't really lack of power because I'd kind of come off and feel okay, like I could keep riding, but just didn't understand how to race a bike. Experience in Belgium, huge. Like going from a 30-minute crit at breathing out your eyes to a 2-hour road race, things kind of slowed down a little bit, and I could understand like, okay, so here's maybe how I have to ride in a group, and okay, so here's kind of how at the end of the race we need to change things. So came back, had a killer Cat 4 season. The next year, a killer Cat 3 season. 2 lovely little state champion jerseys. You know, king of the morons. And then, you know, got to Cat 2. COVID happened. Kind of stopped riding bikes. So now I'm sort of stuck here. And the last 2 years have been, you know, slowly trying to find that again. Right? Is like, hey, why do I like doing this? and it's not going to be winning races. Like at the 1-2 level, that ship has sailed. I can do that no longer. But more so, you know, why do I like going fast? Like, hey, maybe for me, like this is fighting for 15th, and you know, going back to structure in this past year and starting to try and get a little bit better. But yeah, those years 2017, 2018, I got a whole bunch of buddies who probably be watching the podcast. You're like, oh my God, when Joe talks about the old days back when I was a kid, and that's what they were. It was, you know, to a point where on paper, not super huge numbers, but like understood how to race, had a lot of fun doing it. So,
wait. So you said King of the Moor, and I thought it was King of the Mountain.
No. When you win the Cat 4 state champion jersey, because they don't give one to the 5s, it's King of the Morons. And then like you are obligated to like wear it once a week and hang it on your wall and do like all sorts of things that, you know.
Sounds like a rite of passage.
It is. Rodell won Elmhurst this year, and I told him, I'm like, you better wear that every Friday. You better hang it on your wall. You better like be screaming from the mountains that you won this bike race, because at the end of the day, like, as a Cat 4, as a Cat 3, like you don't put on the jersey and think you're a professional now, but you did win the best bike race of the year as a Cat 4, and you got to be proud of that. So,
congrats, Rodell. Congrats.
Shout out to Rodell. Andrew, what about yourself? What have been some of the highs and lows? And before you start, I will say when I first got into cycling, now a little over 4 years ago, I was binge watching all the race down breakdowns, so I'd always see basically like maybe 4 or 5 teams at the pro 1-2 level, and one of them would always be those orange and blue, jerseys. Elbow in. No, I'm just there's no elbow.
That was probably the other guys. I was probably at the back, but you can kind of tell the height difference if you go back and watch them. But yeah, no, high and low points. I just like riding my bike, you know. That's a high point for me, especially if it can be off-road. That's definitely something I enjoy. I'm actually about to go home to South Africa for about 3 weeks, and I'm just taking the mountain bike. That's all I'm doing. I'm just going to be riding trails every day. It's going to be amazing. But low points, obviously you don't want to crash, but like Joe kind of spoke about a little bit, knowing that why, you know, that you have to have that drive of why you want to go fast. You're not going to go fast unless if you know why you want to go fast. If it's to win, if it's to get 15th, if it's to get the Cat 4 state championship.
Wunderbar.
We in Chicago, baby.
Yeah. Welcome to the Windy City.
Was that a tire seating?
Seems so. Popped into place.
It's good now.
It's good to go.
Huge bubble in that one. That thing's about to go kabang.
Yeah, it's about to pop again. Should we evacuate or carry on?
I'm kind of nervous, yo. There's a tire that's about to pop. I don't know if it's full of sealant or what. I think Evo pumped it up to about a 200 psi.
He's
I
filming.
think that's hookless.
Yeah,
it's hookless, right?
Yeah, I'm
I'm
just trying to get
like
TikTok
6 inches
famous over there.
Yeah. I mean, I always wear my bulletproof vest anyway, but so the next topic I want to discuss, and this is going to be contentious but entertaining. So when we had Dean and Brian here, we had both dualities of one just wants to ride their bike, the other is a little bit more structured, and it's the same with Omar and myself. Like Omar's more like I just want to have fun and knock it out. I'm more like in my own little bubble. So we'll take Omar. So how could someone like Omar benefit from a little bit of structure or training for someone without being too far away from his friends? Joe?
Yeah. I'll jump in. Structure is a weird one. So when you go download like a program on Trainer Road, or you do like a Zwift training plan, it gives you like 4 or 5 workouts a week. And a lot of the time those are really built for you to like starve off boredom. And at the end of the day, like I was working with a different coach this year, a guy down from Indiana, racing Cat 1, spent some time with Bissell, Texas Roadhouse, Apex. And his structure was very much, hey, we're going from 3-4 workouts a week to 2. And everything else is low, slow, and easy. And so at the end of the day, the structure was very much The structure was very much like a sharpening of the sword, right? So not a workout for the sake of having something to do, but more so, hey, this is going to be very focused, and like, you know, this month it's purely threshold work. Is like, this is the only thing we want to focus on, and then come next month, okay, now we're doing VO2s, and you're gonna go puke in the Skokie Lagoons, and it's gonna be a great time. But really, that's kind of where structure comes in. Is riding your bike, there's no replacement for it. Like, a guy who rides 12, 14 hours a week is gonna beat a guy who rides 6 every day of the week. But if that dude riding 6 can, you know, put his pedal to the metal and fix the things he wants to fix and improve the things he wants to improve on, he'll go beat the snot out of a guy who rides 4 group rides a week, because that dude's just really good at going 24 miles an hour between red lights. So really, I think that's kind of the thing you can throw in with structure. Is it's good for focusing on, I want to improve this one thing, and the winter's a great time to do it. Like, outside of Zwift group rides, we got a lot of days where we at 5 o'clock get on the trainers and there's nothing else going on. So that's my answer on the point.
Omar, how many hours a week do you ride your bike?
Yes.
I think Omar rides more than all of us combined.
Maybe 16 to 18 hours a week. No, but it's a good point that you made, because I've been thinking about this. Like, how can I, you know, still be fit when it comes to when the weather is much better in Chicago? And I think what I do is now I put in a lot of work in the trainer. Like, from about November until about February, I am hitting up constants, like no warm up, and I'm doing like 2 hours in constants constantly. I've ridden with Big Meg and all these different
Zwift pace partners.
All these pace partners, yeah. And I do some workout every now and then, like some of these little Gordy training, and I hit up some of those. And I think that's what keep me, like, by when the season starts, I'm still fit and I don't have to train, because I think I start the season at a very high level already. So this is my escape of like not missing my friends. I can just put the work in the wintertime because of Chicago weather, and then during the summertime, no workout. Just go to group and I'm okay. So that's what I realize I'm doing.
But those kind of hours are so impressive. Like, I don't know, you don't really. I've watched the other podcasts and you haven't spoken about yourself. Can you tell the audience what you do outside?
Tell us about this jersey.
Outside of bikes.
Outside of bikes. So I'm wearing this jersey because these guys are like one of the guys I ride, like maybe in the when it's warm in Chicago, maybe 4 or 5 times a week I ride with these guys, and they ride at 5:45 in the morning from Plaza Largo up in Sheridan by the Starbucks, the BMO Bank, and these guys are very supportive of us. So whenever we want to do anything for the community or to do anything, they will always put some money up to help us out. So I'm representing them today. And I think you guys know about what I do. I'm a scientist, and if you guys are wondering why I'm wearing this hat, is because I was in Texas for 9 years. I went to school there. Did my bachelor's in Texas at a small college called Paulkin College, PQC in the house. And then I got my PhD at the University of Texas, Southwestern Medical Center at Dallas. And this hat I bought in Colorado at my first rodeo. So I'm representing today. So, yeah.
This man has a family.
Yeah.
This guy's a doctor, and he rides 18 hours a week. I don't know. Do you not watch TV? Do you not watch YouTube?
I watch a lot of TV. So again, for me,
when do you sleep?
So what's it like having a 25-hour day?
So what I do, right? So think about it like this: you don't think about eating or using the restroom, right? It just becomes automatic. So once you make things your lifestyle, it becomes automatic, right? I get like maybe 6-7 hours of sleep. I've dropped kids off at school, pick them up. I cook at home. I cook maybe 95% of the time. I'm cooking at home, and I'm going to work and doing all the different juggling and everything. But it's just my lifestyle, and I don't think about it. I think over time with my training, I've become really good at time management. So, and when you guys are sleeping, I'm biking, and then I slip in sometimes 2-3 rides a day. Evo called it spam sushi rides because I was spamming him like, oh my God, 3 times for the day, spam sushi. But yeah, I love it. And it just becomes easy.
On the weekends, I've seen Omar. He'll go do 80 miles, come home and eat, and I'll hop on the bike at about 2:00. Like, Omar, I need a buddy. You want to come out? He's like, I'm there. What time? This guy who'll go out and then do another 40 with me and still hit it hard. I don't know how he does it.
Again, I'm still kind of young, so I'm gonna enjoy my young age. So before I hit 50, which is coming up soon.
And we're lucky you don't race us.
So Omar
Too old.
dunks on me on like a regular basis on Wednesday nights. Like, I think I'm moving, and then he comes by me like I'm standing still, and we are so lucky you don't race us.
Because I don't want to crash, man. I fear crashing. That's my biggest fear. So I just keep it fun. And, as I said at my Strava, I said I don't race, but I'll help the group to push the pace.
Oh, it popped.
It popped. Finally, it's in place.
We're safe.
No more hookless.
No one's dead.
Who's gonna get sprayed by sealant?
I hope it's still.
I'm leaning this way.
So moving right along, and we'll start with Andrew on this one. So for newcomers to the sport and/or new to racing, what would be some advice you have?
Oh man, I still feel like I'm new to the sport, new to racing. But I mean, just having fun with it, just having fun, as Joe says, going fast as well. You've got to be comfortable with that. So if you're doing that in training, it'll be pretty natural when you're racing. And riding different bikes, I think that's a pretty important thing too, is you get control from one, you get airtime from another. Like, you can really tell in a crit who's been on a mountain bike when they're two wheels sliding into a curb and holding it up. Like, it's it really tells, and you can tell who hasn't been on one if someone flinches and they crash. You're gonna have more fun riding different bikes, and you're gonna avoid more crashes riding different bikes.
Interesting. I know Omar and myself, we talked about, and Omar can agree, that we want to do more gravel biking. We both have gravel bikes. I think I've used mine like once in the last 2 years.
I've used mine once also, and that was January 1st of this year, and that's it.
Omar, what was your first gravel bike ride? Legitimate one. Was it the Turkey Burner or Rafa?
No, that was the Rafa 10. That wasn't my bike.
Of which he still dropped us, Joe, and
friend's
Anne-Marie.
bike.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He's Omar.
Biking is fun, man. It's just amazing stuff. Just to see the road, I was like, I'm gonna go for it, and just go for it. So it's good stuff.
The phrase I always have for Omar, I say, hey, if your legs are itching, don't worry about me. I'll either catch up to you later, or I'll just go home. So I'm like, I'll just do your thing. Don't slow down for me. And by the time I say that, he's already gone. He's already up the road. I was like, okay, he took that seriously.
Yeah. So one more point. So how important do you think it is, like when you're looking for a team, if you're new to the sport, how important is it to find a team that fit your personality and your style? Like, do you think that's something that's very important, or what do you guys think about that?
So I'll start with a disclaimer that says, like, growing up as a junior, I raced for the shop that I worked at, and I was a team of one. And when I went abroad, I raced for a shop that I hung out with. I was a team of one. Came back, joined Triple X.
Triple X in the
Shout out
house.
to Triple X.
One of the biggest teams in the city, and as a kid, they were the bee's knees. But from what I've kind of seen, especially as we've come out of the pandemic and people are all riding and racing again, is it's really important to find a group of people, especially at, the lower amateur levels, that you sort of identify with, right? And so for someone to go over to a team that's entirely focused on crit racing and they don't really like crits that much, that's probably not the best place to be. You're not going to be as happy doing it. And similarly, if you join a team that's very focused on doing the group rides and having like a nice no-drop club ride, and you're a speed demon, probably not also a fit either. Because again, it's finding those things that are fun for you, and a lot of that fun is, doing things together. Like Sparkie and I have to race against each other week in and week out, and at the end of the day, it's us having beers in the back of a car, having a great time. So it's surrounding yourself with people that like are on the same sort of mission as you and doing that together. So if you're new to the sport, like, go make friends, right? Go on a group ride and introduce yourself to people and say like, hey, give me a gist of what's going on here. Do you want to ride again next week? Because it goes beyond cycling. Like, as much as 90% of my friends are also cyclists, a lot of them I'm friends with outside of just bike stuff. So we can talk bike stuff. We can also talk, hey, work, personal life, kind of what's going on. So teams are super duper important, especially finding kind of your little clique of people.
Yeah. And I mean, I take that sentiment because this is one of the reasons why I really love Cortado. mean, they're a kind of a more mature crowd, and I mean, I'm a family guy. They have kids, so we connect on that level. They're all professional. I'm professional, and we're, we call ourselves the North Shore dads. So I'm a North Shore dad, more or less. So that's a good connection we have. And as I said, we do breakfast. Even if we're not riding, we meet in somebody's garage and have coffee in some mornings, or we go for brunch, or we go for lunch. Or my work comes, hey, let's go have lunch, and we go down to some place up there in Edmonton. We have lunch together and hang out. So like those things, there's more than the cycling. We do things outside of cycling. So finding people to connect with, I mean, that is so important. Yeah. So what about you? And where are you now? What team are you on, by the way?
Joe, what team is he on?
So, Sparkie took his talents to 606 Racing.
Shout out to 606.
606 in the house. Congrats.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun for next year, just kind of rip with those guys, and I always have fun with them and crack a few beers after cross races. I know, being new to the city, I think my first race in Chicago was a cross race, and Thomas Kara from 606 walks up to me afterwards and starts cracking beers with me, brings me over to, it wasn't the 606 guys, but it was the SRAM guys, and a few 606 people were there and all that. And I was like, this is pretty cool. This is pretty fun. But yeah, Patrick, what about you? You're not on any particular team. Tell us about Bomay. Tell us about
Hurtful.
We're just dunking on Joe double time this. So
Ali Boumaye.
So
we need to hear about the hosts. We hear nothing about the hosts on this podcast.
I don't matter. Like and subscribe. So my official club is Triple X. So shout out to Triple X. That is Joe, Dean, who we had on here last time. So that's my official club. And when I first got into cycling, I remember I saw like a group of like 40 dudes during the pandemic, all wearing matching like blue and red kits. And I was like, oh, those guys think they're so cool. And low key, I really want to be a part of them. So you know how it goes, right? You hate us because you ain't us. Ain't us, not anus. So one of the members reached out to me and said, hey, come out for one of our Saturday rides. And I remember clear as day, we got to the rollers, and I was like, at this point, I was always doing solo rides. So I go to do an attack at like probably 350 watts. And then by the time we got to the section after the rollers, which is one of Omar's favorite stretches, I basically almost dropped myself. And then I remember it was Jim. Jim Phelan looked at me and was just like, Junior, So, I value loyalty a lot. So even though I don't really, I've done a couple of races, like career races in the past. So even though I'm not racing like in that capacity, I do value loyalty. And so I've always just stuck with them, even if I'm not always around. And then for the Boom IA, I just wanted to design my kit one day. And the brand and manufacturer that I went through said, you have to order a minimum of 15. I'm like, I need like 5. I don't need 15. So I ordered 15. I was like, hey, I'm going to sell the rest of these at cost just to recoup a little bit of money. And they pretty much sold out like within the first few weeks. So I was like, I guess I'll just kind of keep this thing going. But the Boumaye, just, Ali Boumaye, my little sister calls me Patty. So Patty Boumaye is what kind of stuck. But yeah, I might have maybe one of the local Chicago people maybe design the next season's jersey. I've already been in some talks with some people who, if they watch this, they will know who they are.
And for the viewers, his name is Patrick Lino, and his last name is Lino, not Leno. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's the Temu version.
AliExpress.
Yeah, that's the AliExpress version. So for and we'll start with Andrew on this one. So for folks moving into Chicago, what can they expect? There's not really a better word for cycling community, but that's what it is. So we'll kind of stick with that. So what can they expect if even if they're just visiting? What can they expect from the folks here?
Yeah, I think it's kind of different to many other cities around the world where you have the different pockets, but everyone does come together on those Wednesday and Saturday kind of rides. You don't see that a lot of times. You see the groups of 5 to maybe 15 sticking to themselves. And nothing against that, but I think it's really cool when you do see all of those groups coalesce in the middle of the week on a Wednesday, and then everyone goes out for beers afterwards. It's something that I haven't noticed in any other city in the US or around the world. And it kind of makes the racing more fun as well, in a sense, because then it's almost like a group ride. It's almost like what you're doing on Wednesday is now Saturday as well. There's nothing really else. There's nothing extra. There's nothing competitive. It's a Wednesday ride. No one takes it too seriously. Everyone just goes
I do. Patrick does too. We all do.
Omar and I have fought probably in the last 4 years over our different ideologies when it comes to Wednesday. Mine is rooted in I never win a sprint, so I'm more of a hater. And Omar is more like, this is the most important thing that I do on the bike this week.
Because we all need to make the Dean's List. Come on. It's a Dean's List.
But exactly, that's a Wednesday. Saturday is no more competitive. If anything, it's less competitive than a Wednesday. And you don't see that anywhere else in the world.
What do you think, John?
I'll say, like, at the local crit level, I've never really heard people talk a whole bunch of game as to, like, yeah, I did the 1, 2, 3, and I sprinted, and I got beat by this dude, but I was almost there. And now on Wednesdays, it is like flex the muscles, like I got boxed in, but the people are more animated about Wednesday than they are about paying $40 to race their bike. It is remarkable. And a lot of that too is like, this is the concentration of everyone from every category and every, different team into one place. And then beyond that, the whole bunch of dudes that we don't race bikes with, who don't fit into any of the categories, it's every man for himself. So Wednesday is one of like the coolest kind of rides on the planet. And similarly can be said about Mondays, right? They do that Monday night ride, which is a little bit more tame. It used to be slower, but we won't go there. But it's less attacky, less, hey, there's 6 sprints, there's 2. And the idea is for you to be able to come out and have a similar after-work experience, 7-Eleven, high lifes, get crazy, do a sprint or 2, practice going fast, make some friends, get used to doing it before you're going at like Mach speed down Harlem. So this scene is just fantastic.
Every group ride is fast now. I've noticed, like, during the week there used to be, I would say, mostly Wednesday and then like Saturday, and now there's a lot of different groups now, and they're all like fast. Everyone shows up to everyone's group ride, so every ride is like oof.
Yeah, I mean, like the Lighthouse ride on Saturday, that one is like guys just attack for like no reason. You're like, what's going on here? The first time I went, I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing? Okay. I can do it too. It's like, I didn't expect it.
It's been like that for 20 years.
Wow.
It's like before it was Lighthouse, it was called Judson, and they met, a couple blocks away. But like at its peak, there were like 60, 70 dudes on a Sunday. And like Burnham had a whole Masters team. They would bring a train, and just people would kill each other left, right, and center. And it was just incredible. But back then, it was that and Wednesdays were like the 2 fast nights. And then everything else was kind of low and tame. And like to your point now, Patty, yeah, every ride someone's kind of got something to prove, and they ride really, really fast. And part of that is people have something to prove, and part of that is like we've got a lot faster bike racers than we had 5 years ago. We have a lot of folks who found the sport during the pandemic and did totally separate things, and now they're on bikes, and their aerobic engines are now our problem. So
for the guys who race. Yeah, I love the Monday night ride because when I went a couple of times, they do a really cool, nice pace line up Sheridan, and I thought it was really cool because it really helped you to work on your group dynamics. And I'm like, that was pretty. I didn't expect that. I'm like, I'll come here just for that. And then one group I bike with, Plaza, the lead from the Kenilworth station, and on Saturdays, that's what they do. They focus on a lot of rotation, pace line, and that does help your skill level a lot. So if you want a good ride to go to on a Saturday, Plaza. A lot of older guys, but they are so strong, and they just have this amazing pace line. If you want to connect some good pace line skills,
by far, this is the safest.
Yeah,
as far as the group rides go. I want to ask you guys, what do you guys do in your free time? And don't say bikes, but if it is bikes, then you can be honest. Joe,
I ride bikes.
Okay, next, Omar. What do you? Omar, what do you do on your free time?
I do whatever my wife says. Hi, Nicole, love you. No, you guys know this already. You know, I'm a scientist by training. I'm trying to find a cure for ovarian cancer. I run a lab at the Evanston Hospital, and that's what I do in my spare time and taking care of my family. That's more or less what I do.
Beautiful. Andrew, what about yourself?
That means he doesn't have spare time. Yeah, no, I travel a lot for work, so when we have spare time out there, we do a lot of breweries. But then when I'm back home with my fiance in Chicago, I don't know, we like to go out to restaurants. We're both still very much on that learning train, so very different subjects, but then we'll talk about it a little bit. And yeah, I'll learn all about the medical scene as far as my brain can handle, and she'll learn about research or finance or something like that.
Beautiful. I love to hear it. What do? Besides the YouTube, it's not always about being on the bike, but a lot of what I do does definitely consume by way of bike. So it's cycling, the training, talking to people on the phone about bikes, talking to my various industry contacts because I'm famous now apparently. And
Chicago famous.
Chicago.
Zwift famous also.
I'm the most famous person in my projects.
He made it out.
I made it out the hood, y'all.
That YouTube money.
Yeah, I know, right? $100 a month. And yeah, honestly, it's just researching just whatever is popping on cycling stuff. Believe it or not, I get a lot of messages on a daily and weekly basis of just people questions, because the space I'm in, specifically for like Chinese branded bikes, you know, it's a very like kind of DIY home project kind of, you know, part of cycling. So a lot of people have questions on which frame I should recommend them, just little quirks with building, and, you know, is this $600 frame better than this $599 frame? And it's always like, oh, you know, is this frame going to be good if I race on it? I'm like, probably, you know, that's what they really want to know, you know. And I'm like, I don't think you guys are actually going to race on it.
They just want your stamp of approval.
Yeah, they want the cosign.
To be fair, you did not lead me wrong with the hypers.
Shout out to Windspace Hypers.
Big time. Like, I had a pair of Mercuries that broke last year. I was like, Patty, you ride these wheels all the time. Are they legit? They're like, yeah, they'll do the job. They're pretty good. And they're like, I have been singing their praises since. So there's obviously some sort of fruit in this crazy, weird, is this frame better than that frame world you live in? But figured I'd give him a shout out. Yeah,
so I recently tell Patchy that he's actually seriously my BBC best bike critique, because he does an amazing job at like breaking stuff down, and I mean he test rides them, and I mean what you do is keep it up, man. I have a lot of good things gonna come from what you're doing, so keep it up.
Thank you.
You know, one of your early videos actually I took as inspiration. I don't think I've told you this, but I race cross on a Chinese frame, and I had no idea where to start. I was like, which one's going to break under me, which one's not? And I saw you got one. I think it was a road frame, or maybe it was a cross frame, but I remember it being a little iffy for cross. And I was like, oh, this guy got it. Okay, I'll get it. And then I was waiting for the follow-up video, and I was like, maybe this guy died. Maybe it cracked. But I think you posted the follow-up. I was like, okay, he's alive. Let's race it.
There's stuff now that I review where people are like expecting me, like, oh, did you have a catastrophic failure? I'm like, no, because I know how to put together a bike. Like,
I have a torque wrench.
Yeah.
I think it's more the bike than you that people are asking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, seriously. Before we wrap up the episode, now that we're on the topic of bikes, Joe, so please tell the audience which bike you have and how long you've had it and why you have decided not to upgrade.
All right, so I ride I think it's a 2016 Rim Brake Allay Sprint. It was the first year they came out with the Allay Sprint. They had the 1x, which was the black and blue, and then they had this gold and red 2x frame set. And I rode the first generation Venge kind of before that. And when I was away at college, shipping a bike to and from on an airplane is really expensive. So I went ahead and bought this used frame set, no bearings, no seat post, like a frame and a fork from the Astellas Pro team, who was like, hey, we'll give it to you for like super cheap. We're going under, have fun. And And I fell in love with it so much that I took it back with me. It is like the stiffest, just most fun sort of bike I've ever ridden on. So it's still got like a handlebar from 2013 on it. It's got a 10-year-old Ultegra Di2 group set and a pair of Windspace hybrids. But it is such like a working man sort of bicycle. I don't have to bleed hydraulics. I don't have to mess around with like through axles and things. It is just simple. It is the way I like it. And eventually it'll break. But until that happens, like you might see me riding this thing 10 years from now. So
You're the most dogmatic person I know when it comes to being like, it works. Why change it? I love it. I can't do that because no one would watch me with a 10-year-old LA Sprint on my YouTube channel.
How many bikes do you have?
All of them. I have all of them.
I've always wondered.
So that's a good question. So at any given time, did someone just fart?
no.
No.
Okay.
The chair moved. I was like, oh.
Okay, that was evil. That was evil.
In the back. It's in the back.
Oh no.
Where are the fans? It was the tire.
That was the bike losing air.
Air quotes.
Yeah.
So at any given time, I have like 3 or 4 bikes built up because like the group sets are the most expensive part of the build and really the only thing that holds value like for these Chinese brands. So if a brand sends me a new frame, I have to make a choice of which bike I'm going to like disassemble to use the group set on. So I've been selling a lot of the frames recently just because I just don't have the space, and I'm trying to not get to the point that my wife is like ready to kick me out. So I figured the faster I can kind of rid myself of my older frames. And I'll keep stuff for at least a year. I know some of the other YouTubers out there, and there's no right or wrong answer, will basically accept the product, make a video, and then it's on Facebook Marketplace or someplace locally in like the next month. I like to keep it a little bit longer, and I try to focus on local people who really want to use the frame or wheels or whatever it is because I know it's going to get used. So yeah, just 3 or 4 complete road bikes at any given time, but it's going to get smaller soon too.
Yeah, so the rule of thumb, if somebody ever asks me how many bikes I have, my answer is always yes. Because I went from 0 to yes bikes. And my wife is a little bit like, but I'm like, it's okay. I need to try different stuff. So, yeah.
What year is your Madone?
I like a 2000, I think, 16, 15. Yeah.
It's a nice looking bike too, right? It's a night and day, I imagine, from some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe not all of them, but
Yeah, I think my Planetex is probably my stiffest and just one of my fastest bike. That bike is amazing. And it's rim brake. I'm a rim brake guy. I only have one disc brake, and it came from this guy.
They're too loud.
BBC.
It rains and you grab the brake and it starts squealing, and the whole point of it is traction in the wet. But if it's squealing, I don't want to pull the brake anyway.
Yeah, plus we're in Chicago. We don't need necessarily need a disc brake in Chicago. It's all flatland anyway. You go to Barrington, but I was like, man.
With some WD-40, it stops.
That's it.
Yeah.
Gets a squeal out. So as we wrap up this episode, any last words, any piece of advice? We'll start with you, Andrew. Just anything for the audience that either they might want to know or just life advice, what have you.
I don't know if I have enough experience for life advice, but maybe just getting into bikes, you don't have to go to a group ride. There's so many of those fractured groups that so many people are starting. Other people are always looking to start bikes that they might not be able to, you might not be able to, but together you can together. I think it's a lot easier to get into bike racing than you think. And I think there are a lot more people who want to do the exact same thing. So going on communities like you were talking about the Chicago cycling scene or the Chicago CCC.com.
Yeah, CCN.
Yeah. Facebook groups, Reddit groups, DMing Patrick on Instagram. It really is. There are a lot of people who want to start cycling, and it really is a fun sport to do, and a safe one, especially if you're taking the off-road or the bike paths.
Beautiful. Joe?
I'll say this. Everyone and their brother will tell you, us included, like, this is the way you have to go do things. And at the end of the day, bikes, life, whatever, is like, go find what's fun. And like, if for you, that does mean go try things. Go race a crit, go have a cross race, go to a weird Thai place that's a little bit questionable for some noodles. Like, go do different things and have those sorts of experiences, and then find what you like and find what's fun, and then find people who like that. You know, especially in the bikes world. Like, Andrew is one of the most modest people I know, because he is like top 5, maybe top 3 fastest guy in Illinois. But you can talk to him as a brand new dude riding bikes, and it is a very normal kind of scenario. So throw yourself out there, have some experiences, find what you like. So,
Omar?
Yeah, for me, biking is a healthy activity. So I would like to say, whether you're at a gravel bike, a road bike, a tri bike, a tandem bike, whatever bike you ride, just enjoy it. Whether you race or you're just out there to have fun, just ride your bike. It's healthy, and just keep it moving. Whether you're on the train indoors or you're outside in a group ride, enjoy it. It's healthy, and it's just like liberating. Just try it and you will love it.
Beautiful. I love it. And my only piece of advice is going to be embrace the occasional solitude. That way, when you are with your friends or your club, it just enhances the experience just that slightly a little bit more.
Yeah, and then, as Evo said, he's not antisocial. He's pro solitude.
Hashtag pro solitude. So on the note, we will end it there. Thank you guys, both Joe and Andrew, for being on the episode today. This is episode number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3. Yeah.
And big shout out to Evo, Dragonspine, as usual. Thank you for hosting us, and let's have a home to shoot the podcast. Thanks, Evo. You're the man.
Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you on the next one.
Peace.